don't you come and sit up here? There's a place right here. Okay, in the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Can you please take one and pass it down? Or one of this and one of this and just pass it down. Alright, y'all can all have a seat. Okay, so this class today is going to be on the second half of the Mass. Last week we did the first half of the Mass. Okay, so you remember, just to go over it very quickly, we had divided the Mass into 4 parts. With the first part of the Mass being the introduction. The second part of the Mass being the liturgy, which is a very big fancy word for something that's done in a certain way. That's all liturgy means. It means something that's done in a certain way. So we did the liturgy of the Word. Today we are going to do the liturgy of the Eucharist. And then it will be the dismissal. And then finally we have the dismissal. And basically the dismissal, I know I purposely spelled it wrong, because this is where the word Mass comes from. Right here. Because it's in the dismissal. Okay? All of you all remember that the introduction is when the priest comes in, we make the sign of the cross, he kisses the altar, and then we begin the celebration of the Mass. After that we go into the liturgy of the Word.
Which is the 3 readings.
The 3 readings. And the liturgy of the Word, we subdivided that into 3 categories. Which was what? A reading from the Old Testament, then a reading from the epistles, which are the letters,
and then the New Testament.
And then the New Testament. And very once in a while we also throw in here, we can throw in the book of Revelation. Very good, you'll remember. The book of Revelation, and what else? The book of?
Apostles.
The Acts of the Apostles, okay? Very good, you'll remember. I'm so happy. Alright, so you all refreshed your memory, right? Remember the first thing we talked about when we enter the church is, what is the first thing we do? Dip our fingers into the holy water, which is called the
fountain.
It's called the fountain. Very good. Somebody was paying attention. Somebody was paying attention. So they actually call it the FONT, but it's a short for fountain. So we dip our fingers in the fountain, which represents the holy water. It represents water. It represents life. It represents water that we drink for refreshment, or it could also represent water that we use for taking a bath and cleaning ourselves, okay? So it refreshes us and it cleanses us, alright? So think about refreshing and cleansing. Is there a difference? What is the difference?
Refreshing, like that's helping you if you were like thirsty, and then cleansing is like you're cleaning yourself.
Okay. So which one do you think is more important? Is it refreshing?
Refreshing.
Refreshing is more important?
No. I think it's cleaning.
You think it's cleaning?
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a question. You remember we were talking about the people in the desert, right?
Yeah.
Because this was all in desert times, right? So we have to put ourselves into their mind. So if you are in the desert and you're walking around for miles and miles and miles, and the sun is really, really hot, what's happening to our bodies?
They're getting dirty.
Sweating, right? Sweaty, right? So we are really dirty. So if we come to water, would we be more concerned with washing ourselves clean, or would we be more interested in drinking some water to refresh ourselves?
Clean.
You think so? What do you think would be more important?
Drinking.
Drinking would be more important. Now think of it from another point of view, right? Think of it from another point of view. Is there an outside and an inside in this?
No.
No? Anyone here? Do you all see an outside and an inside?
Fresh and clean.
When you drink water, where is the water going?
Into your body.
It's going inside. The washing is outside. You see, and this is one of the reasons why we come to Mass, because it has to be both ways. It has to be an inside, refreshing, but it also reflects on the outside. So, how is it an inside cleansing? Because when we come to God, God's word has to change us from the inside, like our hearts, right? So God's word goes into our hearts like the water that we are drinking. It's a refreshing, right? That's why Jesus says, drink my blood. We have to drink. He doesn't say wash with the blood. We are washed with the blood, but he says drink my blood, right? So the blood is going inside. So it's like the water. Why is blood such an important symbolism in Scripture? You know what blood represents? It represents the life that's in the human body or in the animal. If you cut someone's throat and the blood comes out, the animal can live. Why? Because the blood is what's taking the oxygen. The food is the nutrient. The food breaks down. It gets turned into protein or carbohydrates or fat. It's carried in the blood, right? You know, when you go to the doctor and you're sick, one of the few things the doctor is going to tell you is do a blood test. Right? He says do a blood test. Why? Because everything that's sick or wrong with our body shows up in the blood. So Jesus is using a symbolism. He's not literally telling us to drink his blood, but what he's saying is that if blood represents the life that's in the animal, right, and Jesus is pouring out his very blood for us, then think about it like this. What God is saying is that I'm pouring out my very life for you. Do you understand? He's pouring out his very life for us. So he gave his life up so we can have life. Do you understand? Okay. So this is what the whole symbolism of the Mass is. So we talked about the Mass being a celebration, right? We call it a celebration. So when we celebrate something happy. We don't celebrate something sad. So Mass is basically a party. It is not a funeral where we go to cry or go to sleep and say complain about, oh my God, how long is this sermon going to be? Okay, that's not the way we should look at Mass. We should look at Mass as a celebration, right? And it's basically a marriage feast, a representation of a marriage feast. And when you go to a wedding, we talked about 2 or 3 things that always happens at a wedding. What is it? Eating, drinking, and dancing, right? Partying, dancing, right? So where's the dancing part comes in? Where's the dancing in the Mass? Where do you see the dancing part? When you're walking in, yeah, that's the procession, right? That's the part where we're supposed to be dancing. Where do we see the music? Or where do we hear the music? In the hymns and the choir singing the songs, right? And then where do we see the eating? The sitting at the table and eating. When we are partaking of the Eucharist, right? Then when we go up and the priest gives us the host to eat. And you know, one of the things, how many of us have been to a zoo? Okay, I need to wake some of you all up, right? Because you all are falling asleep. So now I want you to think of this picture, right? When you look at the human body, do you see one whole piece?
Yes.
Or is it 2? One? You know, in Jewish thought, they don't talk about the body as one whole unit like we think linear. They talk about the body as 2 parts. You know how the body is divided? Think of this. You have the head, and then you have this part, and then the legs, right? Yeah? So they talk about the body being divided into 2 parts, right?
Yeah.
They talk about where it's like your waist. They talk about this being the top and this being the bottom. Do we talk like that too?
No.
Yeah, we do. How many of us have been to the mall? Do you go buy clothes?
Yes.
When you go to buy clothes, like for example you go to buy clothes, you go and ask them, I'm looking for a top. Or I'm looking for a bottom. So when you go to the salesperson and you say, I'm looking for a top, what does the top mean to that salesperson?
Shirt.
He would say either a shirt for a boy or a blouse, right? But if you say you're looking for a bottom, what would he think? Pants or a skirt.
Or dress.
See? So we do think like that, right? We do think like that. But you know, when the Hebrews talk about the top part of the human body, they call that the spiritual part. When they talk about the bottom part of the body, it's called the physical part, right? Does it make sense? Now think about it. Every time when we either read, we hear the word of God, we speak the word of God, our hearts are right here and our bellies right here. These are all the parts of the body that God uses in Scripture. Then He tells us, out of my belly shall flow rivers of living water. Or He tells us, change your heart, right, from being hard-hearted to soft-hearted. But the bottom part of our bodies we only use for
Walking.
For physical stuff, right? For living on earth, like procreating. We have to use it for the restroom, for walking. It's all physical stuff, right? It has nothing to do with anything spiritual, other than the fact that we kneel down in church and we use our knees to pray. Do you see the difference?
Yes.
So this is the reason why they call it the top and the bottom. Kind of we went off topic for a little bit, but it helps to make a little bit more sense to you when you think of the body in that way. So what is the difference? The reason I asked you why, if any of us have gone to the zoo, do you know when God created man, He created man after He had created all of the animals, right? So you see, when God created the birds, the fish, and the animals, He put a little bit of Himself into each creature that He made, okay? So it's for us to see God's hidden qualities in each creature. For example, if we look at a dog, what do we see in the dog?
Cuteness.
Faithfulness, right? Because the dog is faithful. He doesn't care if you're a good master or a bad master. The dog is, you open the door, the dog comes jumping on you like he wants to just, love you and kiss you. You could beat the dog, but he'll still come to love you, right? The dog represents faithfulness. Every creature has some little aspect that God put in that creature as a hidden aspect, okay? So, do you know what is the difference when God created man from all of the animals, the fish, the birds? Do you know what the difference is? No? You look at our body again and think, what is the difference between an animal and a human?
You stand on 2 legs, we have arms.
What is it? You stand up on 2 legs?
We have arms.
We have
You see?
We have hair. Well,
We are created basically vertically. Vertically,
Yeah.
all the animals are created horizontally.
No, that.
Right? Think about it. You know, every time an animal eats food, the animal lowers its head to the ground and eats. But we pick up the food and we put it into our mouths. So the Eucharist, which is the host, the priest puts it into our hands. We don't lower our heads down to eat it like an animal, but we take the host and we put it into our mouth.
Eating like an animal.
Right? So what are we doing when we are lifting that host and putting it into our mouth?
We're eating it.
Before we are eating it, what are we doing?
Bowing. Praying.
So we've got the host in our hand, we've taken the host, and we have what?
Lifted.
Lifted, exactly. We are lifting it up. So in the Bible, this is what Jesus was saying, when I am high and lifted up.
Oh.
That's what the priest is doing. He's showing you a symbol. He takes a host and he lifts it up, high and lifted up. What is that symbol of high and lifted up? You see,
Passing.
it was also Jesus going on the cross, because He would have been high and lifted up, that everybody can see Him, right? So just imagine in the desert, when the Israelites had made God upset by complaining, and they said, we don't want this God anymore. So He let all kinds of snakes come into the camp.
Oh, I know that. Story.
Right? And the snakes came in and they started biting all the people, and the people started dying because of the poison. So then what the people did, they went running to Moses and they said, Moses, we are sorry. Can you go tell God to please stop this so that we can get protection from the snakes? So when you read the Bible, and they talk about this all being the desert, right? This is all the desert. And the Israelites are all camped over here. Yeah?
Yeah.
And it says that God sent the snakes into the camp. So did God send the snakes into the camp?
Yeah.
Did He send them on purpose into the camp? Because the people were not listening to Him and He wanted to punish them?
Mm-hmm.
No. You know what it was? If you read the Bible story carefully, it says that before that, God had put a hedge of protection around the Israelites. Were the snakes in the desert already? Yeah, they were already there. But what had God done before? He had put His protection around the camp. You understand? So when the people said we don't want God, then God goes away, his protection goes away, right? So when God left and his protection left, then there was nothing to stop the snakes from coming into the camp. So when the Bible is saying that God sent the snakes, God didn't send the snakes and tell the snakes, go bite them. But before, what God was doing, he had put a fence and a hedge around them and he was protecting them so that the snakes couldn't come into the camp. Do you understand the difference? So now the protection is gone, and so now the snakes are able to come into the camp and cause us damage. Okay? So, you know what they did? They went crying to Moses and they said, Moses, please help us. Go talk to God, tell him we are sorry, just save us. So what God said, what God told Moses was to put a serpent. He told them to make a bronze serpent and to nail it to a pole and to lift the pole up. And he said that all the Israelites had to do was to see the pole. And if they just looked at the pole, even if they had been bitten by the snake, they would be saved. And they wouldn't die. Okay? So, you know how many Israelites were in the desert?
400.
There were 2 million. 2 million. So in Houston we have about 6 million people right now. So that would be 1/3 of all of Houston. So how much space would that need?
A lot.
Oh, a lot, right? It would need a lot of space. So you think that if Moses is standing here and the pole is being high and lifted up, okay, and say the people start from here, how far back do you think that the people would be
Many miles.
standing? Miles and miles, right? Maybe a mile, mile and a half, 2 miles maybe, if they're all close to each other. So when the pole is lifted up, and you look at the pole, you could be standing close to the pole, or you could be standing way in the back. But did God tell them that, oh, you have to struggle and force your way through the crowd to come close to the pole, to touch it, to kiss it? He said, no, all you have to do is look. So you can even be standing from far, all you have to do is look at the cross. And Jesus said that when he talked to Nicodemus in the New Testament, he said that just like the Israelites in the wilderness, when the snake was lifted high up on the pole, he said the similar way, I will be lifted up high on the pole. He was talking about his death on the cross. Because like the bronze serpent, all the sins of the whole world went on Jesus, and he was nailed to the cross like the serpent. So when the cross is put up there, there's nothing we have to do. We don't have to do anything. See, this is one of the reasons we get confused as Christians or Catholics. We think we have to do something to get saved. God says, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You just have to believe. That's it. Only believe in me and you're saved. Right? But now, after we believe, okay, then we start doing. We don't do to get into heaven. Do you understand the difference? You don't do anything to get into heaven. Getting into heaven is purely a gift from God. So if it's a gift, it has to be free. There can't be any charge for it. Okay? So you go to work, you get paid. When you go to work, you get paid. When you get paid, you can't say this is a gift because you work for it. So you have to earn it. You can't, it's not free. You understand? It has to be a gift, and if it's a gift, it has to be free. And if a gift is given, then I can come and tell you, okay, I'm going to give you this as a gift. And then the next day, if I'm upset with you, I say, give me my gift back. Then the next day you're nice to me, I say, okay, here's your gift again. Then the next day I come and say, hey, give me my gift back. You see, this is how we play tag with God. We don't play tag. If we believe God, we are saved. Okay? I'm trying to make it easy so you understand. Okay, everybody put all those papers down. Okay, you'll have to pay attention because you're coming to class to listen and hear the word of God and to understand. Okay, so if supposing we go to the grocery store and we buy a can of Coke, and on the back of the can of the Coke it says free admission to Astroworld. Okay?
Yeah.
So we go to Astroworld, we show them the can, we can go inside, right? That's all it takes. We don't have to pay any money or anything. We go into Astroworld. Some of us will say, oh, you know what? There's some rides that some people will go on, but not everything. But when you get into the gate, everything that's before us is free for us to use, right? There's again not every time you go to the ride that you have to buy another ticket to go on that ride. Do you understand? So when we get into heaven, all of the gifts of heaven are ours. Okay? But what Jesus says is that once you know that you have been saved, okay, once we know that we have been saved, once we know what God did for us, and because He loved us, He went to the cross for us, right? And because He first loved us, now we are saying we believe in you. Then Jesus says that because you believe in me, and you are really a follower of me, then Jesus says, come follow me. Okay? So if we follow Jesus, then we are going to do exactly what He does. Because we are yoked to Him. You know, we were talking about the bullock pulling the piece of wood through the field and making that hole so that the farmer can throw the seed in that furrow. Right? So they used to take that big piece of wood, which was called a yoke, and tie it to the neck of the ox. Right? But when they wanted to train the younger ox, they would put another ox right beside him and also tie him up to that same yoke. So when the older ox is walking, what the younger ox can do? He can't go wherever he wants. He has to go the same way, right? So if we get yoked to Jesus, then we have to do whatever He does. Wherever He goes, we go, right? Make sense? Wherever He goes, we go. Okay. So then it is because we are doing good, but we are not doing good to get into heaven. You have to make that distinction in your mind. We don't do good to get into heaven. That's the free gift from God. But once we have got that ticket in our hand to get into heaven, then we start doing good because we are followers of Christ. And if we really believe, we will do what God says. If we don't believe, we will not do what He says. Okay? So, again, how many of you all have been to the zoo? Okay. You see, what is the closest animal that is not human, but what is an animal that you would say is very close to human? Monkeys, right? So let's look at the monkey and see, is there a difference between what God made? God says we evolved from humans say we evolved from monkeys. God says no. God says I made you different. Okay? God says you did not evolve from monkeys. I made you human. Is there a difference between a human and a monkey?
Yes.
Yeah. But if you look at a monkey and you see that sometimes can the monkey ever be human? No. It can never be a human. But can a human be a monkey?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. That's why they call it monkey business. Right? That's why they call it don't monkey around. Okay? You know, you look at the monkeys, right? And they're sitting with each other. Guess what the monkeys are doing? When 2 or 3 monkeys are sitting together, what do you see them doing? Talking. What else do they do?
Pick their hair.
Picking their hair. See, he got the answer. So you see the monkey, picture this. One monkey sitting down, the other monkey is picking their hair and pulling out what?
Lice.
Lice and nits, right? Because the monkey thinks that this is something wrong with this monkey and he's got all these sins in his fur, right? So what do we do as humans? We're always picking on other people. That's why they call it nitpicking. Why do you think that? Why do you say, stop nitpicking on me? Because we are at that moment we are behaving like monkeys. Because we are trying to find fault in everybody else, right? And Jesus says that look, you got a big log in your eye and you're looking at the little speck in your brother's eye. So you're trying to point fault to somebody else just so that everybody would not be looking at you. And you know the log that Jesus is talking about? That word for log is the same word that they use for the foundation beam in a house. Those are not tiny 2x4s. Those are the big beams that actually hold up the house and support the house. Those are huge. There's no way you can hide them. But if you look at the log of wood, what is that log of wood made from?
Trees.
It's made from what? Trees. It's made from trees, right? And the speck of wood that's in your brother's eye, what is that made from?
Trees.
It's also made from trees, so it's the same thing. Sin is sin, right? It's just a degree of sin. So a little sin, a great sin. As far as God is concerned, it's the blind leading the blind. Okay? Because just imagine if even a little piece of something goes in your eye, can you see?
No.
Can you see?
Yes, yes.
Can you see?
Yeah.
When something goes into your eyes, what is happening to you at that moment when something is in your eyes and irritating you? Can you think of anything else? What do you think of? What can you think of at that moment? You just want to get that thing out of your eye. Right? It's hurting you, it's paining you. I can tell you, just walk around with that thing, that splinter in your eye all day long and go do your job. You can. You can. Because all day long, all that's going to be in your mind is that splinter in your eye until you get it out. But yet, we are walking around with big logs in our eyes, blind all day. Right? You'll see the picture? Okay. So, all the snakes were coming into the into the camp, and the only thing that the Jews had to do was to just look up at the pole. It didn't matter whether you're close to the pole or far from the pole, right? So even now I can look at Jesus, I can go to church every day, or I could be just a new believer that somebody has come and spoken to me about Christ, and I'm a new believer, and I say, hey, you know what, I believe. And that's it. You could be far, you're not that close to God, where you've studied the Bible and you've gone and learned all these prayers and stuff. All you look at the cross and say, Jesus, I believe you died for me. Saved. Salvation. But now begins our walk, where we are walking with God and showing Him that we really truly believe in Him. Okay? So, how many saves? You need to stop that. How many saves did God do for the Jews in the time of the Exodus? How many saves were there?
I don't know because it was
You remember one of the saves?
getting out of Egypt.
What was the first save?
Getting out of Egypt? Or the plagues?
What was the first save? Anybody?
The storm.
The first save was the blood of the lamb, right? Which was called the Passover. That was the moment when the king of Egypt actually capitulated, and he told the Jews, you know what, get out of Egypt. Just take whatever you have and go, because I can't take any more, right? So what was the first save? The first save I think this is a wrong pen. Again, somebody left this pen here. I keep using this. Okay, so the first save was the Passover. And that is called the Paschal Mystery. So what is Paschal? It's just a fancy word for Passover. And what is Passover? What is Passover? Basically just passing over. Okay? Just passing over. Just forgiving your fault. If somebody does something wrong to you, you say, I'm just going to pass over that. I'm not even going to mess with it. Do you understand? Okay. So Passover. So what was the whole key of Passover here? What was the key? The key was for an innocent lamb to be slain, the blood to be spilled, and then they would take that little branch, which was called a hyssop branch, they would dip it in the blood, and what would they do with it? And use it as a paintbrush. What would they do with that blood?
Paint it at the bottom.
They would paint it on the door. So, what did they have to do?
Make a cross.
They had to kill the lamb.
And then
They had to kill the lamb.
spill the blood.
They had to spill the blood. They had to take the blood on the hyssop. And what else did they have to do? Then they had to paint it on the door, right? So the blood was painted here, and then the blood would drip down, so that would make the sign of the cross. You understand?
Uh-huh.
So in the night, when the angel of death came, okay, to the house, when he saw the blood, okay, does it say that when the angel of death came, he came to each and every person and he examined their life to make sure that they were good people or bad people?
No.
That they did what God told them to do, or they didn't do what God told them to do?
No.
What was it that made him pass over?
The door.
It was the door? Was it the door?
No blood.
It was the blood. So what happens if the Israelites had some friends that were Egyptians, right? And say I have a friend, so I'm Christian, I'm Catholic. Supposing I have a friend that's from ISIS. Everybody knows who ISIS is?
Yeah.
No? From the jihadists. Do you know what a jihadi is? From a person from Saudi Arabia who's going around killing all the Americans. But supposing I have a friend, a very close friend, but even though he belongs to that group, he's a very close friend of mine, and I want to save him. Even though I know he's a jihadist and stuff, but I don't want to see him die. So I open my door and I take him into my house. Okay? So the Israelis would have taken some of the Egyptians into their house, and they had already put the blood on the door, and now the Egyptian is in their house, right? So in the night when the angel of death passed over the house, would he just pass over the Israelis living in that house, or he would pass over the Egyptian too?
Egyptian.
He would pass over the Egyptian too. Wow. So it's not about who's in the house.
It's about the blood.
It's about the blood. Wow. So when we go to Jesus and it's about His blood, it's not about whether we are Christian or Muslim or Jew or Sikh or Hindu or any religion. It's about the blood. So all they have to say is it's the blood. And the blood is what saves you. It's not how big the house is. It's not how big or small the door is. It's about the blood. It's about the blood. It's about the blood. Right? And we are asked not only to put the sign of blood on the outside, which is like the water of baptism, right? That was an outside and an inside. So when we put the blood on the outside, which is on the doorpost of a house, it's on the outside, so everybody looking, they can see that that's a Jewish house, right? Because they're celebrating Passover for all these years, right? So supposing a Jew lived down the street from you, and they were celebrating Passover, and you walking down the street at Passover time, and you would see the blood on the door, and you would look at the door, and you would say, when you saw that sign of the blood, it's a sign, right? That's all it is, it's a sign. When you see that blood, what would you say? Who lived there? You would know that a Jew lived there, correct? It's all that simple, it's a blood. So when you're walking around and you're wearing the cross on your necklace, and people look at you and they see that cross, so what do they see?
Catholic?
They see Christian, right? Because even Baptists wear the sign of the cross, right? So they will say Christian, right? They will say Christian because it's a sign. And this is what Jesus is saying, it's a sign, right? This is a sign. So God is always dealing in signs, right? So this is why we celebrate the Mass, because when we are going through the Mass, and what we are looking at, while we are looking at the Mass, is we are looking at signs. So when we saw the baptism, what were we thinking of? Drinking water for refreshing, and we were thinking of outward cleansing as a bath, right? But we don't really go and drink the water, and we don't take our clothes off and jump into the water to start taking a bath, but it's just a symbol, it's a sign. Do you understand? It's a sign, right? Then when we go to the pew and we kneel down, and like we were talking about, right knee, left knee, we're not going to get into all these little issues of whether the right knee is the right way or the left knee, because now the church says it doesn't matter, just kneel, right? Because what we are doing there, it's a sign. We are showing God that we are subservient to you and we are giving you allegiance, right? Remember when the soldier knelt and gave allegiance to the king? So when we are kneeling on the pew, that's what we are doing to God. We are saying, you are our king and we give you our allegiance. Right? Like we give allegiance to the flag of the United States of the America and the republic for which it stands. Right? The Pledge of Allegiance, right? That's the same way we are alleging ourselves to God when we come to church and we kneel down. It's like we are saying the Pledge of Allegiance to Him. Because we are kneeling down, we are making the sign of the cross, and then in our minds we are praying to God. You understand? It's making sense? So the first half of the Mass, when we talked about the introduction and then the liturgy of the Word, which is again when the priest comes in carrying the Bible and the whole procession, that reminds us of Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem. Right? We talked about Jesus coming in on a donkey because it was not an animal of war. It was an animal of peace. Because you don't take a donkey into a war. Right? You don't take a donkey and go to fight a war when somebody else came riding on a horse. And if you all know the story of Don Quixote? No? Don Quixote? And Pancho Sancha, what is it called? Pancho Sanchez. Do you remember Don Quixote used to ride the horse, right? But his sidekick used to always come on a donkey, right? And then they would be fighting all these imaginary battles and stuff. But see, the donkey, if somebody's in the army, the whole army is riding horses, and you're on the other side and you're coming in on a donkey, just imagine the stupidity, right? Can you see that picture? Well, you're going to lose, right? And here's Jesus, he's supposed to be the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. Everybody's waiting for him to come and destroy all the Romans. They want him to get the sword and rally all the people behind him. Come on, let's get these Romans out of here. And then he comes into Jerusalem riding on a donkey. You know? So it's such a stupid, ludicrous picture that Jesus was showing them. He said, look, I'm not coming to fight a war for you. You know? When Jesus kept saying that peace I give you, my peace I leave with you, it's not the peace as the world gives to you, not that kind of peace. I'm talking about a different kind of peace. I'm talking about a peace, like if these two are best friends, right, and they do something to each other, and they're so mad now they're not talking. They're not talking. There's no peace between them. That's what we say. There's no peace. And even though everybody's happy in the room, but there's a coldness between them, right? Like there's almost like a physical wall there, right? And remember again, once before we talked about that there's a direct relationship between the heart and the mouth, right? Because when you're mad, and your heart is closed, and your heart closes up, your mouth opens. Do you ever think about that? Think of a puppet. If you take the puppet and you take his heart and you press the heart and you tighten the heart, the mouth opens. When the heart opens up, the mouth closes. Does it make sense? Think of it. You know, when you're mad at somebody, what are you doing? Are you talking to them softly or are you yelling?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Because your heart is tight and closed at that time. And so your mouth is open. But when you are in love with someone or you like someone, you're not yelling at them and screaming. You'll be sitting close to them and you'll be talking to them softly. Right? Because your heart is big. Think of that. Isn't that amazing the way God made it? So we talked about the monkeys picking on each other. We are like humans, we pick on each other. Don't look for faults in others, right? We were talking about the Mass, so let's try to stay on the Mass. So now we are coming to the Passover, right? So we got to the point where we made it and made it important that it was all about the blood, not about anything else. It's about the blood, right? So Jesus died, he shed his blood so we could have life, right? So we are reenacting that whole scene because Jesus used that in symbolism, because in the Old Testament there was also a way that you could go to the altar, okay? Like there were 4 or 5 different sacrifices that you could do. So one of the sacrifices was that you would bring the lamb to the altar, right? Then the priest would inspect the lamb. We've already gone over this again before, but I'm going over it once more. So the priest would inspect the lamb. He would make sure that there was no what? No blemish, right? So one more time. I have to make this very clear to you so you understand.